All right, welcome back to the Engineering Entrepreneur Podcast. This is a big episode 100, and we did it. We hit 100 episodes. So in light of that, I thought I would review some of my favorite topics and mention some projects I've done recently. We've had a lot of great guests on the show. It'd be impossible to touch on everything, but I think we should start with episode 2 with Rick Daley and licensing, because I know a lot of you inventors that listen, this could be a good option for you to capitalize on it. And some of the key takeaways I have from that episode is that you don't need to actually make the product to license it, but a prototype does help a lot. You could also use CAD renderings if it would be too expensive to make a prototype, or if you just want to take a simpler route to do it. And we learned that you can make quite a bit of money from it, as Rick made $300,000 or so. You did have to split that with his broker, but that's part of the process that helps you a lot if you have a broker to get you in the door with some of these companies that might license from you. The next topic that we talked about a lot on the show is 3D scanning. So check out episodes 14 with Andrew Bougie and number 53 with Matt Holling. And scanning is a great way to reverse engineer complex existing parts. So first, when you scan it, you'll get a point cloud file, and then that gets converted to an STL file, and then finally, if you needed it for molding purposes, you'll need a SolidWorks file. So each of these steps takes progressively more work after the initial scan to create. And a good scanner will cost you quite a bit of money, about $10,000 to $30,000. So the next topic I would like to review from past episodes is patents and intellectual property, IP. Specifically, check out episodes 70 with Alex Hobson and episode 56 with James Wilson. And patent protection is important for inventors if you want to protect the idea for the long term and prevent additional competition. So we discovered in these episodes how the entire patent process works and the steps you should take when you have new invention ideas. First, you should go to the uspto.gov and see if it already exists. I would just look at the images. Reading a patent is confusing, but if you just look at the images, you'll have a pretty good idea if what you were looking to invent has already been done. And then if you don't see it, you should first file a provisional patent, which is pretty cheap, and it gives you 1 year protection before you need to go get a full patent. Okay, so that covers different topics and past guests, and then to finish up this summary episode, I thought I would just talk about some projects that I've done. So a couple that I was hired for. One was I designed a condiment bottle. So think of like a ketchup bottle, but it had like a unique lid to it. It was interesting because I printed it in an SLA printer using what's called durable resin. So it simulates polypropylene, and it functioned just like it. You could squeeze it. You could hear the air coming out of it. Filling it up with ketchup and testing that wouldn't really be practical for a couple of reasons. One is you don't really want anything food-wise touching this resin. This is just for prototyping. And number two is, due to the way I had to print this thing, the entire inside was filled with support material. It would have collapsed on itself otherwise. But obviously, getting a blow mold made for a prototype also wouldn't make sense. So it was a good compromise to create a prototype for this project. And then another project I was hired for was to create some AutoCAD blocks. So this was purely just a CAD project, and the customer has a conveyor system, and they wanted to see how large the system would take in their manufacturing plant. So I created a top view. What I did was I used SolidWorks and exported the lines. Then I brought that in as a DWG into AutoCAD, and then saved that as an AutoCAD block. And then they can bring this in to another AutoCAD drawing and place it in there with the correct scale, and they'll be able to see, if it's going to fit in their manufacturing environment. And finally, I'm always looking for new invention ideas of my own that I can create and sell online. As it's pretty passive income once I invent something that I can just sell over and over. And I can't remember exactly how I thought of this, but what it is, it's called the tonal shelf. So there's an exercise equipment like the Peloton, for more like for strength training, called the Tonal. And this is a $4,000 piece of equipment, so it's very high end. So my thought process was that this is a good market to target for a new product, because there's a lot of disposable income. They're not gonna have a problem spending $100 on something that is like an accessory to this. So I was connected to a guy through Facebook, local to me in Charlotte, who had this, and I think he may have presented the idea to me when I was actually just putting on social media that I was actively looking to invent something new. He said, listen, I've got this tonal machine, and there's all these extra handles, and there's no good place to put them. If you can make a shelf that holds it, that would solve a big problem. And like I just explained, you could charge a lot of money for it, because the people that buy these are spending $4,000. So there's no reason for me to charge $25 for the shelf when it solves a problem worthy of charging much more, which I currently charge $100 for. So what I did was I got with him, and I saw how the handle pieces connect to the machine. There's a little thing called a T-lock on there. It's like a little adapter. And I used that adapter as a mechanism. I used that shape to create slots in this shelf. The shelf's about 15 inches long, and you put these in and twist it, and it locks in place in the shelf. So you put 4 drywall screws in, you hang the shelf on it, and then you can put these accessory pieces in there, and then they're nicely organized off the floor. And it took, lesson here for inventors, it took me, a very experienced CAD designer, 9 revisions to get kind of the final one that I started to sell. And then I got a little bit more feedback that it could be a little bit more stable, so I added some ribs across it to stabilize it, make it a little bit stronger. And so basically now I've got the final version done, and it took 10 revisions to come to it. So, it's very rare, it probably never happens, that you're going to just nail it on the very first try. So that wraps up episode 100, the Engineering and Entrepreneur Podcast. We're going to have a lot more. Don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So keep listening, keep inventing, and we'll catch everyone next time.